Everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoterica and our continuing series, the Unported playlist, where we take a look at some of my favorite unported arcade games of all time. And today we're taking a look at Dirt Devils, released in 1998 by Sega and AM3 on the Model 3 platform. And they definitely loved making racing games for the Model 3 because this is the third we've shown on the channel. And while I really enjoyed this game, I would say it's the weakest of the three games on the Model 3. The first being Scud Race and the second being Daytona 2. This is still a really fun game and one you should definitely check out. But as far as my tastes are concerned, I would say it's my least favorite of the three. That doesn't make it a bad game, it just means that my preference says it's not as good. But you'll see here it's definitely an off-road rally game, but unlike something like Sega Rally, which is a little bit more realistic, Dirt Devils is just straight from start to finish, an arcade racing experience. And you have a ton of laps to complete. It's a short course, and you have to complete 8 total laps to be able to get to the finish line. But it's super intense. There's a lot of bump and race action going on, and visually, just like everything else on Model 3, I mean, it hasn't aged as well as some other things, but for its time and place, this was an absolute outstanding experience in arcades. And using the Supermodel emulator, this game is one of the games that does play really well in 16:9 forced mode. The menus can get a little bit weird, but everything else visually looks like it was intended to be widescreen from the start. And the game moves super fast. You've got all this drifting going on, the camera sways with you, so it has a lot of kinetic energy, and it really feels like that 60 frames a second is just blowing by, and it controls well. With emulation, you can definitely adjust that because some of the cars control better than others, and normally I don't show you the back end of how these things look, but in this video I will show you how you can adjust your steering with an Xbox One arcade stick in the service menu. And you'll see that we do get different camera angles like a traditional racing game. You can get that in the cockpit mode, and that one gauge on the right definitely does move up and down. So detail-wise, Sega did the best they could to incorporate a lot of different details all the way from the gauges in your car to what's going on the side of the track. Although honestly, the game's moving so quickly, you really don't have much of a chance to stop and look at things. But you get a Dreamcast banner up there, and this game was rumored to be being ported to Dreamcast. Obviously that never happened, or else it wouldn't be on the Unported playlist, but it was one of the games that was supposed to come home, and I think it would have been great. Granted, the Dreamcast to Model 3 conversions aren't always perfect, but even with some graphical downgrades, or 30 frames per second versus 60, you still would have gotten a really good experience for the game. And it's unfortunate it didn't come home, but that's just how it works. And it's definitely got a lot of sponsorships and licenses in it. You're going to see Bridgestone ads, you're going to see Asahi beer ads, there's Visa ads, Pepsi ads, and they definitely sold as many sponsorships to this game as possible, which is really funny because it's a total arcade racer and doesn't really emulate any actual racing franchise around. And now we are on the final lap here, and this rock in the top's always threatening to fall, but it's never fallen for me, even though it warns about it. So I don't know what's going on there, why that rock doesn't come down, but I mean, hey, I didn't have to worry about driving into it, so I guess it's actually probably to my benefit. And you will see here, we just get thrown off at the very end, and we lose 2 places. And if you don't race perfectly in this game, winning is near impossible. We went from 4th to 7th because we had one little blip at the end there, and unfortunately, the game is difficult even on its easiest setting, but it's definitely one that you could get better at. What we're going to show you now is how to calibrate that steering wheel. If you just calibrate steering and you push the analog stick on an Xbox One controller all the way to the left and all the way to the right, it will calibrate. And sometimes you do need to do that for these games, but the makers of Supermodel made it super easy. Just go into the service menu, calibrate it, and come back out. I do wish there was a little bit more visual flair between the races though. It's just this static image with the track rotating around with some information, but it doesn't feel as fully featured as some of the other Model 3 games from Sega. I don't know if it was rushed to get out or what happened there. It's a small complaint, but hey, we're talking about gaming, so I have to definitely say the negative things when they occur, so I just wished that those screen transitions had a little bit more flair to them. But now you're seeing here, we're basically racing on this figure 8 mud track in this arena, and now the game's all about quick turns, banking turns, and jumps. And you will see that your opponent AI does get a little muddled in there, and they do crash too, so it's not one of those games where they're racing perfectly and you're trying to compete against them. So it does feel fair, and when you make a mistake, it's definitely the mistake that you made. The game didn't force your hand at it. But I would say that I wish it was just a little bit more forgiving because one simple bump is going to totally ruin your racing experience. And you will see if you look at the top there is some of that skybox that goes missing, and that seems to be an issue with forcing 16:9 on all Supermodel games. They all seem to work outside of a Jurassic Park game, which I'm going to be showing shortly, but you do get a little bit of that black image at the top but I can live with it because I like the 16:9 aspect ratio. What I'm going to do is stop talking, let you guys finish the rest of this race and hear the soundtrack, and I'll come back, finish the video on the last track coming up. Enjoy. And hey, at least we came in fourth this time. We are improving. The weirdest thing about Sega in the Model 3 is how many games just never were ported home for it. You have 3 racing games on the Model 3 that I've shown, and all 3 of them never had any ports outside of that platform. And buying the PCB and getting it to run at home is no easy task. It's definitely going to take a lot of time and energy to make this work, and that's why Supermodel is so great, because some arcade platforms and boards are quite easy to make work at home. Plug your Super Gun in, plug your controller in, and play. But racing games in particular, especially ones that aren't JAMA, can be quite difficult. I had a lot of trouble getting the Hyper Neo Geo driving games running with home controls and pedals, and that is just a JAMA edge. When you get to something like JVS, it's a lot more involved, and you're definitely going to want to have a lot of experience to be able to make them run. And you'll see there, I just definitely hugged the wall and totally screwed up my race, and that's unfortunate. But I also wish there were just a little bit more tracks. In a perfect world, I wish Sega had just brought all 3 of these games home to the Dreamcast on one disc as a compilation. I know that sounds crazy and it wouldn't be financially viable, but hey, it's my channel and I can wish for what I want, even if I know it's never going to come true. And this is definitely the third talked about game as far as Model 3 games are concerned for racing. Scud Race is the one that I think everyone wished they really got. Daytona 2 is awesome, and I would have loved that as well. I love Scud Race just a little bit more. And then Dirt Devils is an awesome game. It's fun, but like I said earlier, of the 3, it's my least favorite. And it's still an awesome game, and that just goes to show how good Sega was at making arcade racing games, that if the third favorite of mine out of 3 is still this good, that just goes to show how much better and awesome 1 and 2 really are. But should you go out and play this? Totally. It takes about 5 minutes to get it up and running in Supermodel. If you get the graphical user interface and you don't have to worry about the command line, it's even quicker. And you can play with an Xbox One controller, you can play with a DualShock 4 from the PlayStation 4, or if you have a wheel and pedal set for your PC, you can play it that way too, like it was originally intended. So there's a ton of different options to be able to play the game. I do love how the track transition, now that it's nighttime, we get this real-time lighting effect of the headlights, and you can see that it is going across the track, and it does look like it's occurring in real time. So graphically, the game still holds up really well. Granted, it's nothing that you couldn't do today very easily. You can make a game that looks way better than this. But the fact that this came out in 1998 was still incredible. We were still playing the PlayStation 1, the Saturn and the Nintendo 64, and Dreamcast was just going to be coming out the next year in North America. So the fact that you could go into an arcade and play something that looked this good and ran this well, it's just absolutely incredible. And you'll see here, we're getting really short on time. But we're also getting short on time on the runtime of this. So I will tell you guys, if you could do us a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. It takes a lot of time and energy to make each one of these episodes, and we really appreciate your guys' support. Leave your questions and your comments below. I'm curious if you guys have ever played this or seen it in an arcade, because I haven't seen one in a very long time. Short of that, we will be back next Sunday with even another episode in our Unported arcade playlist. We just keep making these because you guys keep loving to watch them, and they're fun to do, so we'll keep doing it as long as you're watching. We'll also be back on Tuesday and Friday with episodes in those series as well. But you're going to see here that this was the one track for the playthrough that I ran out of time. I just had to get around the corner, and I failed. But thanks so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. Have a great rest of your weekend, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.